All right, everyone. Welcome to Founders Live Conversations. I am Nick Hughes. I am the founder and CEO of Founders Live. And, today I'm so excited to be joined by one of our Founders Live members and also one of our Founders Live winners from one of our cities in Raleigh, North Carolina. We have Annie Combs from ECPC Travel. Annie, welcome to the Founders Live Conversations.
Hey Nick, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's awesome to have you here. And, it's always great for us. We love talking with, our winners and, the Founders Live, the startups that pitch at our events and just members of our community. And so it's really nice to have you here. And we're excited to just hear a bit more of your journey, what you're building and why, and then even some of your lessons learned and tips to, offer other founders. But feel free to introduce yourself and bring us up to speed a little bit of who you are.
Yeah, sure. Sweet. So, like Nick said, I'm Annie Combs. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at ECPC Travel, which stands for Eco-Conscious, People-Centered Travel. I started my business through a graduate school research project, actually. I was studying the impacts of tourism on both communities and the environment, and kind of accidentally ran into this issue of the fact that there are so many super awesome, high quality tourism offerings out there that are better for the planet, better for local communities. It's just really hard for consumers to find them. And once I had that information, there was no way I wasn't going to do anything with it. So my research partner and I put our heads together and ended up coming up with a business as we know it today. Came out of grad school, not only as scientists, but as entrepreneurs. And I recently just quit my day job to pursue this full time. So really excited about that.
Well, congratulations on that. That's a big step. I remember when I took that step for reals. And, I think sometimes like, and by the way, like starting your startup with kind of doing that on the side, having a full-time job is a quite smart thing for a lot of people to make sure that you keep that, income stream coming in and you're supporting your life. But that full-time choice is a very distinct and very strong decision. I wasn't fully prepared to ask this, but share with us a little bit of like, when did you know you were ready to really make that leap?
Yeah, I think obviously it's different for every business and depending on, the different factors that play in your life, financial situation, where you're at, it can vary a lot for a lot of founders. For me, I just got to a point where I was realizing that the more I put it off to the side, the less likely I was to actually scale it to build the business that I knew it could be. And so it was like all of a sudden, every hour I was putting in at my day job was an hour that was taking away from the momentum we had already kind of acquired and were working with. And that's when I was like, okay, if I'm going to do it for real, I got to put my skin in the game and just take a leap of faith and do it. And honestly, I'm so happy I did. We are now going 10 times faster. We've got another team member that's full time now too. So just full speed ahead.
That is so great. Congratulations. And, for everyone listening and watching, that it is a personal decision. And, but what Annie just mentioned is you have to, I think the best way that I've described it in the past, and I think you just did and naturally is you need to be pulled into your company. And, forcing this decision isn't necessarily the best choice. Depending on your financial situation, some people are able to kind of like, hey, take some time, pay themselves, have saved a lot of money or something. But if you're not in that situation, you only know it's the correct choice when you're pulled in, when you're like, I can't sleep because there's so much going on. I need to be doing this full time because then the business will grow and we'll be successful. Versus the forcing of like just jumping in, not actually, the business is not pulling you and needing you 24 hours a day. And now you maybe lost that full-time, income, and you're maybe not getting income from your business yet. So there's just, it's a personal choice for either way, but it sounds like you got pulled in, and I think
Yep.
that's really great. So, what we want to do though is kind of learn a little bit more about, why choose entrepreneurship? I always love to ask this question. I'm very curious. I think we are a unique bunch, and I want to learn a little bit more about, what attracts you to entrepreneurship versus, hey, we're all talented, we could go work at a larger company and all that.
Yeah, that's a solid question, honestly. And I feel like every entrepreneur has such a unique journey. I'm sure you get some really great answers to this
Yep.
question. For me, the why entrepreneurship kind of also started as an accident. I got a job working for a startup when I was fresh out of college, and realizing the difference between building something and, working for something that's already been built honestly just changed my mind about the risks associated with going in with your own startup or working for a startup entirely. There was so much more passion, motivation, like there was a reason to get up to go to work every day. And it was so much fun when you were out there creating something that you genuinely believed could change people's lives, whether it was through a new social media app, which is where I started, or, a tourism company. And I think entrepreneurs have this really unique opportunity to take a look at the information they know about their industry, the skills that they've acquired through education or through work, and to put it all together, mix it up, get creative, and solve people's problems. And that's just so cool to me.
Yep, yep. It is, and it seems like you notice that with even when you were working for the startup, and you're like, hey, why not do it myself? And was there an influence of like, I would rather own it, like, look, I'm working for myself, and I would kind of, financially and equity, you were like, I'd rather do it myself. You just mentioned about kind of solving problems and obviously making impact, but how much of that was influenced by, well, look, at some point I got to take a bet on myself, and even from a financial standpoint, have a bigger outcome.
Yeah, I think that was something that came later. I think the idea and the passion to bring the idea to fruition really led me into entrepreneurship. And then when I got here, I was like, oh, I have so much more freedom of time in my schedule, no risk, no reward, but the rewards are way bigger if we get to this point where we're a giant in the industry. And that's when everything kind of came together. And I was like, no matter what I do, no matter where I am, I'm probably going to end up back in entrepreneurship no matter how hard I try to get out of it, because once you're in it, it's so much more fun. It's so much more rewarding when it pays off. And you get to, use your passion to motivate what you do every day. That's so
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I would add on this, given, look, we just basically we're now in our 11th year. Okay. And, as I travel and speak at, our events and our cities, I definitely share that, the feeling of like, imagine doing this for 11 years, right? And imagine what your impact will be on year 11. And you're already seeing this, but you're gonna see it a lot more, which is the thing that you thought of, and you think that you may have started as a little doc, and maybe you tested out a little bit, but you started it, and now it's actually impacting people around the world. um, it's a very powerful feeling, and I encourage you to not only enjoy it now, but imagine what it is at 10 or 11 years. And that is significant. And in some ways, yes, there's upside, there's financial stuff that we can enjoy over time, but just the actual creating something from nothing and seeing it impact people around the world is just, it's the best. That's all I can say.
It's so cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the best. Well, hey, let's talk about your experience as pitching at Founders Live Raleigh and winning, which is awesome. Congratulations! And you last year did that, and were able to kind of qualify into our Founders Live Primetime Regional event, which you could talk about that. But maybe just share with us kind of the impact that Founders Live and pitching at Founders Live Raleigh had for you and the experience.
Yeah, I would love to. So I accidentally, once again, happened upon Founders Live. It was in my LinkedIn network on a post, and I was like, you know what? I should throw my hat in the ring. I could use some pitch practice. And I, worked really hard. Creating a 99-second pitch is one of the hardest things you can do, drilling down, 15 minutes talking about your idea and this like beautiful magnum opus and okay, what's actually necessary here? What are my key points? And I think that preparation and kind of putting myself in the mindset of what are the main things I need to get across about my idea have not only helped me just in general pitching and, giving 30-second introductions after Raleigh, but going to Raleigh and immersing myself in the startup community that Founders Live had created there was honestly the best benefit for me. It was great practice. It was good to, put on my public speaking hat in person. It's still kind of coming back after COVID. But meeting everybody has been just wonderful. My network has grown tenfold since Founders Live. We've found wonderful advisors in the startup community here. I ended up getting an invite to another pitch event where we met our current CTO, who we recently hired. And so Founders Live was kind of the catalyst for us jumping into the Raleigh startup ecosystem and hopping on what they call the flywheel for the triangle to just fully immerse ourselves, meet the right people, and we've taken off from there.
Mhm. Yeah, it's awesome. And, I think first of all, I was able to visit Raleigh last fall. That was my first time in North Carolina. So I really enjoyed it, and won't be my last for sure. I'll be back there this summer, just for
Come
everyone
on
to
down.
know. Yeah, I'll be there in June. So mental note that. I'm excited. But, there's something special there in, especially the triangle, as you call it, the three cities there. And, it's just it's a unique community, very innovative, very up, like, I don't know, there's just energy there that is very unique. And, I think you all got some really good stuff going on there.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. And it's a really cool community of entrepreneurs that's there for kind of the collective success, lifting each other up, connecting each other to the right opportunities. And, coming to Founders Live and seeing the next group of people pitch on the 25th of February, I'm really excited to do as well, so that we can welcome more people in and, get them the resources that they need.
Yep. Hey, I want to give a shout out to our Founders Live team there in Raleigh, Mallory and Marlena, and then everyone there, especially all the Raleigh community. Thank you all so much, and you're doing a great job, and it's one of our up and coming cities. So we're excited, and thank you all. So, well, again, maybe describe a little bit of that from the city event to just your experience of kind of enjoying the win, as well as as we've created the Founders Live Primetime, more of the global experience. How did you view preparation? Because Founders Live city events are in person, and that takes a dynamic that's unique and special. It's important to understand how to get in front of maybe 100 people and stand up and talk about what you're building. But then, our primetime experience is more virtual, and we require some, video pitch experiences, and then, you're online. So, share a little bit of your thoughts on the difference there and what you saw was a fun experience.
Yeah, 100%. Well, they're two completely different animals. Pitching in person, you almost kind of feed off of the nerves being stood up there in front of everybody. But it's also cool because you really get to connect with the audience. You can see them engaging with your pitch. You can kind of gauge how well you're hitting your marks there. I had a joke in mind, and when people laughed, I was like, okay, we're good. We got this. And so that was a little bit easier, kind of from a standpoint of, okay, do I have them engaged or not? Because if you don't engage somebody at the beginning of your pitch, you lost them. You know what I mean? But preparing for the virtual pitch, I took it more on the lines of, okay, how can I reach through the screen, grab your attention, still remain polished, answer all my questions, but also ignore like the chat box going crazy, the likes going crazy. And so practicing with a lot of distractions around was also really good for the online version. But being able to record myself and watch it back too in the qualifier was very, very telling. And I think improved my virtual pitch skills overall, to be perfectly honest with you. But I would say both experiences are really good, especially now as things move into a more interesting hybrid format in the entrepreneurship world. It was really nice to get a taste of a virtual pitch competition that I'd never done that before, and a live competition, just to kind of, gauge the differences, see where my strengths are, and improve from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is why we do it. Obviously the Founders Live city events are in person. They're fun and it's gathering, it's networking, but it's presenting an opportunity for, founders that may not have a lot of experience public speaking. You got to be able to get in front of a group of people and share your vision in a confident way. But then you flip it around, and in today's world, it's very important that you as a founder can kind of have the wherewithal to come across in a video standpoint very put together and professional as well. So it's been fun because we found a unique way to be able to kind of do those both. And in the end, you all have, you have a link to a video, or at least an online competition that has your pitch there, and you can use that. And it's just being able to, it's just another aspect of getting your message out, and hopefully looking professional. And it's only going to help the startup kind of move forward.
100%. Yeah. And having that recording of the competition to actually watch back is really nice. Yes, I won Raleigh and it was wonderful, but I would love to have been a fly on the wall and just been able to watch myself in the audience. It's like, how did I do that? How can I improve for next time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So cool. Well, let's get into what you're building, and ECPC Travel. Obviously, it's a travel experience, and it's a travel that empowers communities and protects the planet. Expand on that. And I like to ask this: is like, was there in this answer? Please share with us. Was there like a story or an experience that really put together the even initial awareness of why you would want to create a travel company?
Yeah, 100%. I have always loved to travel. Since I was old enough to go places on my own, my parents felt comfortable. Every single dollar I had in my savings was going towards some random trip somewhere to go do something awesome. And I ended up getting an opportunity to work abroad on a sea turtle research project in Costa Rica after my first year of college. I was so excited. And when I got there, I realized just how intertwined the community was, not just with the turtles, but with tourism. So I went in thinking I was going to be this like super awesome marine biologist, really working with the turtles. And what I found was that my interests lied in how the community had used tourism and the protection of the turtles to better their own lives. I thought that was such a powerful thing. And so I kind of took that, stuck it in the back of my brain, finished college, stayed in touch with my host mom, and a vacation home developer had come in, and the entire hillside behind the village was being marked for these like massive homes for Americans who wanted to come hang out in the jungle, get some tranquility. And she ended up selling her land to this guy, and it just didn't make me feel super nice. It was one of those things where I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to help this not happen to other people. But again, stuffed it in the back of my brain, went to grad school, met my business partner, spent 2 years researching in and out of the field the effects of tourism on the environment, how to kind of create these mutual beneficial systems in other places besides Costa Rica, and happened upon the idea for ECPC and creating a system that everyone can benefit from, not just you on vacation, but the ecosystem you're visiting and the communities that host you, because that's how travel should be. So
It, it
from
is.
there,
Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
there it is. I was gonna say from there it is. Yeah, ECPC kind of was born. I was in the Amazon at the very last day in the field before going back home for honestly a much needed rest in a real bed in a shower. And I was sitting there with my business partner, and she was like, you know, what if we did something with this? Like, I don't want this to just be a study. And I was like, Kat, you're right. We should go and build something. And so we wrote it out on a piece of paper and came back to school, and we were like, okay, we're going to build this thing. And we've created an online platform that connects travelers to eco-conscious, people-centered tourism providers. So these are providers that meet responsibility criteria we developed in our research on sustainable tourism that also includes local socioeconomic well-being as a piece of that sustainability. Because when you take care of people, they take care of their local ecosystems as well. And so we're trying to create this mutually beneficial system that everyone can discover. And so, in providing increased access to these awesome people that are providing really cool experiences or stays literally around the whole world, we've got offerings in Antarctica, even if you want to go. We can all work together by going on cool vacations to make a positive impact.
Mm, mm. I think that I travel and I do
Yeah.
a lot of travel for Founders Live, so this is very interesting to me. Um, so how how does it exactly work in the sense of, and you've heard these questions all the time, but it's like, okay, well, there's all these different travel platforms out there that you book a flight or hotel, and like, how does this differ from that? So let's kind of start from that beginning of what people are mostly accustomed to.
Yeah. So people today are mostly accustomed to, hopping on the internet, going on an Expedia, an Airbnb, a booking.com, finding something they're interested in. They probably book their stay first. Some people book a tour first if they're like really into go do something. And then they head, to book their activities and they kind of build their vacation piecemeal from there. Some people use a travel agent, but most people nowadays are booking directly from the internet. And so we kind of wanted to make it as frictionless as possible to offer this transition to more responsible options. So we operate kind of in the same way as an Expedia. Right now, we are still a little bit more manual. You're describing to us where you want to go and what you want to do, and then we're offering a curated selection of itineraries for you to choose from so that you don't have to do the legwork to find, the more responsible version of snorkeling with whales in Maria, or the more responsible version of heading to Australia to hang out on the Great Barrier Reef. We say, here are your options. Do you want to go? We connect you with our local providers, and then you just go have a good time knowing that you are spending money with locals and making a positive impact on the planet in the process.
So interesting. Yeah, I think even another base question is like, first of all, like, if someone is looking to travel and they actually are even thinking, I think that there's one aspect of intention to start with, is like they actually want to travel with a more conscious, approach. That's number one, because let's be honest,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that are not even thinking about this. But secondly, what is a very subjective question, but what is conscious travel in the sense of like, what are the aspects of travel that you would consider? Maybe there's three or four kind of main aspects that you want to bucket in the sense of being more conscious as we travel around the world, conscious on our communities, conscious on our earth, and the impact that we have from a footprint standpoint, sustainability. So share with us a few of these high level thoughts that you've baked into this platform and experience that you're kind of quantitatively, I guess, if there's a measurement,
Yep.
talk with us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this kind of brings us to the criteria we look for when we're vetting our providers. So we've got three main pillars. The first one is environmental impact, obvious, right? You can't have sustainability without some improvement on your environmental impact. So things like renewable energy, water conservation. There's some really cool properties in French Polynesia that actually use cold ocean water for their air conditioning instead of Freon, which is awesome, right? So like innovation and things that we've already seen that are better for the planet. The second is socioeconomic health and well-being. And this is the category that 99% of sustainability certifications on the market, especially in tourism, just straight up ignore. And these are little things like fair wages for employees, hiring mostly locals rather than flying in, expats or Australians to run your operation, providing business development training to people who want to work in tourism, things like that benefit the community. And ECPC really, really wants to work to ensure that every single provider on our platform meets something within this criteria bucket. And in doing a travel or a trip rather through ECPC, you are supporting this because 90% of the money that you spend will go directly to your local host, which is very different considering that 60 to 90% of the money we spend on vacations leaves the host community right now and goes to giant foreign corporations. So once again, like community dollars creating positive impact for people. And then the last one is education and outreach. So how can we educate you about local culture? How can we educate you about the environment, the issues that a destination faces? I didn't know until I went to Antigua that most of their water is trucked in and sold piecemeal to people. And so you want to make sure
Cool.
you conserve your water when you're at resorts in the Caribbean. A lot of those islands don't naturally have, a ton of groundwater to go around. And so it's experiences like that where you can learn, where you can really immerse yourself and find yourself experiencing the most authentic side of a place, that you grow more as a person. And that's what travel is about. Yes, you're seeing cool stuff, but you're also really expanding your horizons. And so that's kind of just the nice cherry on top when it comes to our evaluation. So that's what we determined to be conscious travel.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Yeah. Those are all very important. And why like Expedia is not, necessarily been focused on this, or, other major platforms? Is there a general reason that you've come up with, or is this just like, does it just fall into, well, those bigger companies, it's just, it's like revenue and profits, and that's really what they're focused on. Um, Talk to us a little bit about why this wasn't a foundational information data set, 5 to 10 to 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing is that we hadn't really studied tourism's impact until it had completely destroyed a few destinations. For example, like Cancun, Riviera Maya in Mexico is now undergoing a regeneration effort. They don't have a lot of groundwater. There's all kinds of issues over there with people finding a place to live and cleaning, seaweed off of beaches and things like that. And so scientists were like, wait a second, there's a problem with tourism. And we had to kind of backtrack and study it from there. And so it was a little bit unfortunate that, that was the way that the sustainable tourism field came about. But that wasn't to say that these experiences didn't already exist. People just didn't have the terminology back then to market them. And so when Al Gore's first look into climate change and sustainability kind of catapulted environmental science into the world's eye, we were like, wait a second, okay. So sustainable travel studies started from there. Bringing it back now to the modern age, consumers are more aware about the impacts of travel. There have been some pretty bombshell documentaries like The Last Tourist. If you haven't seen it yet, it's awesome. That are starting to open people's eyes, but also social media. It's been a really powerful platform for education about sustainability specifically, and tourism has kind of found its way in there. But when you think about these giants, they were forming as sustainable tourism research was just kind of starting to pick up speed. And so there wasn't a ton of connection there that people could realize to honestly, frankly, incorporate it into their business model. I was in New York City in 2023 at the Regenerative Tourism Conference, and I actually got the privilege of watching the Chief Sustainability Officer at Expedia speak about sustainability. And unfortunately, what she said is that it's a problem that they necessarily aren't able to kind of fix or remediate, because there are so many providers now backtracking to audit all of their sustainability and figuring how to adequately label them and get the information they need. Like, they are well past that point of being able to go back over hundreds of thousands of providers and gather all that data. And so the cool thing about us as a younger company is, if we start with this baked into our process, we develop this really awesome data set. We learn a lot about sustainability in the industry and these providers and what they're doing well and how they can improve, so that eventually everybody has more access to information, more access to the tools they need to act better, to travel better, to run better businesses. And we can kind of, build up from there. So using business to create a better world.
Yep, I like it. Which, this is great, and it leads to, talk about let's go out 5 to 10 years, and what would be your vision and how you want to impact the world, and especially the tourism industry in general.
Yeah, 100%. In 10 years from now, we see ECPC as part of the travel industry, because the travel industry and the sustainable travel industry have merged to become this really awesome force for good. ECPC is booking millions of trips, sending hundreds of millions of dollars into local communities, and funding valuable infrastructure projects that increase destinations' capacity and willingness and ability to adopt sustainable practices, valuable training programs for locals. And we've basically taken the tourism industry and just added this local sustainable piece baked into the entire pie. So that when people are looking for travel, it's just to be expected that you have a local guide. It's to be expected that you're going to have a cultural immersion experience that's authentic and on local terms. It's just a part of your trip that most of your money goes back into the community and helps them fund sustainable infrastructure development projects. And you feel better as a traveler because you know that no matter where you want to go or what you want to do, you're not, going behind you with this trail of destruction, like a lot of tourists are today, mostly without knowing it. And I think in addition to that, ECPC is assisting travelers in just becoming more aware of their impact. And so in addition to being this awesome travel booking powerhouse, we're also this hub for sustainability knowledge and improvement on your practices and giving people the tools that they need to continue to create a more sustainable, equitable industry and world at large.
It's an amazing vision. The world needs it, as you know. I'm not needing to tell you that. And it's. I know that this is a big challenge, though, right? This is a long term. In some ways, not to say that they're the same, but when I think about with Founders Live, we just believe that, in some ways, I believe that there's 2 or 3 times the amount of people around the world that would, could, and should be entrepreneurs that are running companies or building their vision. We want to empower that. And that means that hundreds of millions, if not billions of people. And there's a lot to kind of flip over time so that is a possibility. And I kind of see the same thing with your vision is like, we're talking about all these different countries, all these different
100%.
cities. They all have kind of different, local regulations and or like things going on. And so, you see it as, it's a beautiful thing though. It's like, it's a long-term mission. And if, I think also the way that you describe that, essentially just influencing the travel industry is a very, very incredible thing in general. So if that can be part of your vision and you see, whether you become a very large company or not, if you start seeing all these large companies start to mesh with your vision, that's success.
That's a win for us. Exactly. No matter, what happens with ECPC as an entity, if we can help take the steps towards a travel industry where every additional dollar in revenue creates an additional unit of positive impact, we win. That's it. Game over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what makes me so excited to do my job every day, honestly.
So cool. Well, as we kind of move to the kind of final part of this conversation, we'd love to hear, just some lessons learned, and the way that I view this is maybe, share with Annie 5 years ago or whatever, I don't know, a few handful of years ago, what you have learned that maybe that earlier Annie would have loved to know at the time. So let's go with kind of 2 major things that you've learned that you'd want to share with earlier kind of younger in their path and journey entrepreneurs.
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest piece of advice that I have for young entrepreneurs is to take your imposter syndrome, look at it, and then throw it in the garbage. Because in creating a business, whether it's an idea or it's an MVP or it's a fully running company, you've already put your skills to work to create something. If you can create something, you can run it. You might have to learn a little bit more or meet the right people to help you run it. But the hard work of creating the idea and validating the idea has already been done. So you don't need to feel like an imposter. You matter. You will be a wonderful, founder, CEO, CTO, whatever your heart desires, as long as you put the work in for it. And I think the second piece of advice that I have to founders that are just starting out is pitch as much as possible to as many people as will listen and listen to their feedback with open ears. The more eyes and ears you can get on your pitch, the more you can kind of gauge where the biggest value for your solution is. For example, with ECPC, we were so focused on providers and their benefits and bringing more money back into local communities, but we totally were like, oh my gosh, wait a second, travelers are looking for eco-friendly vacations like this. We've got these unique vacations, whether you want sustainability or not. People want to go hang out with the locals in a way that's, not making them upset. And so being able to have that feedback really changed the game on how we pitched. And that's when we started to win. So get advice, build your network, and believe in yourself, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, these are great points. Thank you so much. And I'll kind of double down on that. Just the pitching aspect, obviously, just getting that message out. And I think there's kind of twofold here that I would view. Number one is sometimes early entrepreneurs or early startup founders, you're kind of in that first few months or first year of your company. It's a weird thing, but you kind of don't want to talk about it necessarily. You're keeping it close because you're almost like, well, I don't want anyone to like really kind of critique it or point out some weak parts. Oh, you need that as soon as possible. All right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you experience that too. We all do. It's like, oh, the feedback is what really helps you polish your idea and kind of take it from this concept to actually like a thing that could actually, get some traction. So definitely, I really appreciate that you're mentioning that, is like, speak about it. Even in a networking event that you're not chosen to pitch in front of the crowd, talk about it with other people. Figure out a unique way to ask a few intelligent questions. Kind of like if I'm sure that whenever you chat with people, I'm sure you bring up it's like, where was the last place that you traveled to? Or, do you enjoy travel? And all of a sudden now you're going to get the ability to ask them a question that you can gather some information. So, you just, definitely, share your idea, your concept, and pitch it as many experience events like Founders Live that you can, because the more of that, it just builds confidence, and then you're able to go forward and be more successful. So I'm so glad that you shared that.
100%. And you never know who's going to end up an advocate for your solution, too. Like the most unlikely people could end up really hyping you up. Like we had no idea we had such a pull in markets with older women going on girls' trips after their kids are out of the house. And now we have all these moms like shouting from the rooftops how great ECPC is, And so it's like, have the conversations and like own yourself and your solution.
Own it up. Well, Annie, this has been a very fun conversation, and I want to thank you for joining us. I want to congratulate you for your not only just getting started, all the things that you shared here, but success you've had early on, and now you've gone full time into this. There's a whole world in front of you, and it's exciting. And I'm pumped for you all and your team to see what happens over the next few years.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me and creating a community that was the catalyst for ECPC's success.
Well, you're welcome. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. And, like I said earlier, is, my hope is that as many founders as possible can create things in their own vision and then see how it kind of positively impacts other people in the world. And I love hearing that stuff. So thank you for sharing that. And, but this has been Founders Live Conversations. It's been so great to have you, Annie, on the episode here. And people can find more information at ecpctravel.com. Is there any other places that you would like to point people, whether it's social media or others?
Yeah, 100%. Follow our LinkedIn, my own personal LinkedIn, or ECPC Travel's LinkedIn and Instagram for the most up-to-date information about all the cool places we can take you to, as well as some really awesome travel tips to expand your own knowledge as a traveler. And maybe you'll find some destinations that weren't on your bucket list that you absolutely have to visit now. So bonus there.
Check it out. All right. Well, thank you all. This has been the Founders Live Conversations. And also you might be listening to this on the Founders Live podcast. So thank you all. And until next time, enjoy.